Hey, it's Chris, Liege Games. Let's do this. Upcoming projects for Kickstarter crowdfunding next week. I really like this shirt, by the way. If you haven't seen the anime Death Note, highly recommend it. Friends don't let friends dub. You gotta sub. You gotta have the subtitles. Much better audio, everything. But also, I've heard the live action was not terribly good, so maybe just skip out on that part. The animation, much better way to go. If you missed it this past week, the roundup yesterday, or at the beginning of the week, the Witcher review, and I'm gonna hopefully have something else out this weekend. Tomorrow, maybe looking at one of the latest announcements that's sort of getting a lot of traction, a lot of rumbling around the scene. And then, if I have time this weekend, maybe I'll try and do a, Monday morning quarterback news complete roundup for Monday. And then hopefully to next week, I'm going to have just a bunch of reviews hitting. I'm going to try and film a bunch in a row so I can get a bunch out. I've got a bunch of stuff sitting on the back shelf, literally, metaphorically speaking, that just needs to get done. So that's what to expect. That's the wrap up from my channel this week. I am eking close to 3,000. I don't know by the time this video hits if we're going to be there. I also have a short synopsis video that I'll put out when we hit 3,000. So that'll probably be sometime, maybe beginning of the week, just as a thank you, but also as a where should we go sort of thing. So if that appeals to you, stay tuned for that. Otherwise, let's do this. I've rambled for too long. What's on the horizon for next week? First up, on June 15th. Oh, by the way, did you see that I put the links to the Kickstarter pages in the roundup video yesterday? Yeah, I tried. I heard you guys. Hopefully that was helpful. Like all three of you that care about that. Anyway, so first up in June 15 is Distilled. This is a 1 to 4 player strategy card game. Resource management, a little bit of push your luck as well. In case it's not totally clear, by the cover picture, you have inherited a distillery and you are trying to become a master distiller. Purchasing new ingredients, getting new upgrades in terms of what you have equipment-wise in the distillery, as well as followed by distilling it itself and sending it to the warehouse. How good at that can you be? Now here you can see a little bit of a closer up of a prototype version of the different resources, the different bottles, the different barrels. So you're going to be managing all of that stuff in terms of how you're upgrading your distillery. Then you can take a little bit of what it looks like in a little bit later form, all of these piles that you're going to be doing, your player board in front of you as well. And there are a couple videos on Board Game Geek already. And you can see there's 3, one with a solo demo and one with a quick overview. So if you're interested in that, check it out. There's even a rule. So you check it out if you're really interested in this. I think this is one that would definitely be interesting, and seeing what you're going to be doing in terms of how you're going to be managing the strategy with the cards. Now, I was going to give you a quick synopsis of the rulebook, and then it was like 16 full text pages, as you can see here. So I think this is one you're going to have to dive into. This is one that I think, hopefully, if the presentation matches the mechanics, this one could be one that's flying under the radar right now next week. It was a finalist in the 2021 Cardboard Edison as well as Ion Game Design Awards. So again, it's not an unknown. So expect to have a little bit more pedigree than some of the stuff that's never been tested out there. And you can see, I mean, it's well designed. This is a well instilled rule book in terms of organization and detail. And it's, got some legs to it. So, anyway, no more dad puns. I'll try. Anyway, so check it out. I mean, this is one that I think if you like more complex strategy card games with some upgrading sort of in the Euro style, that's what I'm getting sort of in the vibe of looking through this rulebook. And so I think it's worth checking it out. It is launching on June 15, so that's the date that you need to have your eye on. Next up on June 15 is Paradox Initiative, a 1 to 4 player strategy game, a reimagining of the original game Paradox. Card drafting, set collection, resource management. You are a crazy scientist trying to master all things space-time and trying to collect as much of said space-time, right? I don't know if space-time was something you could grab. We're going a little bit Doctor Who here, but you're trying to master it, trying to control as much of it as you can. Your reckless experiments, though, in order to capture this, are going to have ramifications. So as you're trying to capture it through the Paradox machine, there are going to be consequences in doing so. Unfortunately, that's the best description I can give you because there is no other information on the Board Game Geek page. No files, no videos, no other images. It's by Elf Creek Games, so we're going to kind of have to wait and see what sets this one apart, what do we need to know mechanically, and how is it going to actually interact. I mean, half a dozen people have, videos ready for this, so like all of these, we'll see what happens when it pops up on the 15th. Next up on the 15th, and you can't read the bottom text, but I will tell you anyway, it's called First Ascent. If you're not familiar with what's going on, you're climbing a mountain. This is a 2 to 5 player game. Not only do you want to be the first one up the mountain, but you want to be the most skilled climber in addition. This one, I think, really looks thematically incorporated. Here you can see, for example, one of the items that you may be using, a rope gun, so that you can use less pitches or less holds in order to get up the mountain in the first side. And then you can see a little bit of the other aspects of the games, the other icons, the other cards that are going to be playing in sort of this flow. Now, how is that actually managed? Well, here you can see, although you may have to zoom in a little bit, how you're going to actually be climbing, because as you can see, each of these little hexes here also has various icons on them. So I'm guessing that you're going to have to match what you have with where you're trying to go. Now, there are 2 reviews here on Board Game Geek already. 7 minutes and 15 minutes, a full review, and then a replayability review. And so you can check it out. It's going to be very interesting. Again, I think very thematic, very different than anything else that's on the market. Again, with all 3 of these so far, I think price point and what do they just look like aesthetically when it comes to fruition, when the campaigns are launched, may determine whether they're more like the ones from this past week, which are all sort of having trouble funding, or if they're going to fly under the radar and, surprise us. So check it out, especially if you're a mountain climber, any sort of climbing in that sense. That's First Ascent, launching on the 15th. Stop me if you heard this one before. Don't actually stop me, but you've heard about this one before because this is Zorro the Dice Game, the latest expansion, Stunts and Allies. They are relaunching on June 15 as well. You get allies to help you out and the ability to unlock an ally die for additional help in this dice rolling game, or you have stunts, which allow you to do mid-turn actions, reactions, in order to mitigate what is going on in the game in the first place. Now, the question, obviously, with a relaunch is what is going to be different this time around than the previous time around. And again, I think when I glanced at the page the first time around and covered it, they were offering a lot of the stuff from the other expansions and the base game as well. So again, what's going to be different? Price point, mechanics, components. We'll have to wait and see when it launches on the 15th. Next up on the 15th is Scarface 1920. Now, you are taking on the role of a mobster in the 1920s in Chicago, and you are going to be utilizing the mechanics of worker placement and deck building. Stop me again if you've heard that before, right? Classic combination now that's getting a lot of hype. So, now with a mafia theme. Is that going to intrigue people? Is that going to attract people? What's going to be different in terms of this than the other big 3 that are getting all the attention out there still now to this point with Dune Imperium, Endless Winters, and Lost Ruins of Arnak? How is this going to compare? What, again, is different from the ones that are out there? Why should you get this one? Why should you back this one compared to the others? Now, it appears maybe there's going to be a little bit of area control. There is asymmetry between the mob groups that you choose and that you start with. Not only are you having to deal with the other mob groups and control for territory, but you're having to deal with, obviously, what mafia game set in the 1920s would be complete without Elliot Ness and the feds. Racketeering, bootlegging, bribing, all of those said things that you would associate with this are going to be the actions that you're going to be taking. With the images that we see on here, it definitely is going to be unique. It definitely has a different aesthetic than I was expecting. Now, it does appear that there's going to be miniatures, so take that for what you will. Now, obviously, that's going to affect the price point, too. Are these going to be heavily incorporated? Are these going to be, markers? What element, how heavy do they need to be involved in? Because, again, that's subsequently going to affect the price point. Early bird, 48 hours, great. Now, here you see this is a picture of what the main board is going to look like. You can see it's divided into territories. And again, what else is going to be on there? And you can see that clearly the more bad stuff you do, the feds are going to come running. As you get to the top, they raid you. Then you can see a little bit of a mock-up that there's going to be special things in each area. I'm assuming those are going to be the actions that you're going to be taking in those areas. And then you can see that you're going to be hiring, I'm assuming these are thugs down at the bottom. And you have your own player board. And it looks like it definitely is going to have more miniature based. So again, price point, price point, price point. Are people going to be attracted by that? Or if these were just, cubes or meeples, is that going to help it or hurt it? So that's going to be the big question in a game like this. There's just a trailer on the Board Game Geek page, and that's about it. So again, this is going to be interesting because so far I've seen different stuff so far with these games, but I think a lot of those other elements are going to be whether or not these games are funding. So we'll see when it launches on the 15th. Next up on the 15th is Forests of Pangaea. You are a spirit sent out by the Earth Gaia to bring life to the planet. A 2 to 4 player game. Area majority, set collection. Here you can see a little bit of what the game is actually going to entail. It reminds me just with the color scheme and the vibe a little bit of Iwari. Now, the difference being that as you're apparently putting some of these hexes and tiles out there, that it may be more modular in that sense. And you can see that you're going to be one of various different factions. There's going to be cards that you're going to be utilizing, and you're trying to be growing this life on the planet. So that is what you're going to be doing. Are you going to keep the forest calm, mingle, not mingle? What are you going to do? You have the ability to grow. You can see the action there of putting a tree down, going into mutual areas. The rituals that are going to allow you to be more expansive or decay other areas. And then you have terrains that are going to be not only influencing, but the ability to unleash those powers in the gameplay as well. I mean, this game definitely looks aesthetically pleasing, sort of what I would imagine more of what photosynthesis was anyway. And so again, I think price point with these, which appear to be wood, I wonder what it's going to be. And it's definitely got me intrigued. This week is definitely going to be a lot more interesting than last week was for me personally, to see what these look like when the campaigns are launched and to see sort of how things shake out. So that is Forests of Pangaea. Forests of Pangaea. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but it's launching on the 15th. Liege of Games. Guaranteed to pronounce one or two things wrong every single week. That's why you stay. Next up, also launching on the 15th, is Hollywood Racers. Crazy drivers in a post-apocalyptic setting. Now, the weird thing is, in this post-apocalyptic setting, they have banned all forms of movie entertainment. But unbeknownst to them, they are having this wacky race set up in the Hollywood studios with all of these crazy things happening. This is a 2 to 6 player, obviously racing game. If you can't tell what this little picture is right here, let me blow it up for you. This is a freaking T-Rex in the middle of the field. So like when I said crazy things, crazy things. So here you can see, obviously there's going to be some tokens crashing. You're going to have your various vehicles, and it looks like it's more of a nodal system, which is a very interesting way to go. You can see different colors on the board themselves, which I'm going to guess are going to have various effects from the arrows as well as the reds and greens. And they also appear to have other symbols down here, and it looks like you're going underwater even. So again, how much influence, how much stuff is going to be there? A little Jabba the Hutt reference right there. The different racers that you have here. I don't want to say that looks like sort of a Rondel-esque, but I'm assuming that as you move up, the other people behind you get to go. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of mechanic they use in this sort of race game. Now you see also there a red die in the upper right hand corner, a white die in the lower left. I'll move so you can see the white die. Now they say you're going to have 3 actions on your turn: move, abilities of your cars, ram, honk, or repair. So what does that entail? How heavy is the die involvement going to be in those situations? We don't know. There's no video, there's no rules on Board Game Geek. This is about as detailed as you're going to get right now. So if you're interested, check it out when it launches on the 15th. Launching on the 14th now, going back a day, we have 2 Minutes to Midnight, a 1 to 2 player game where you were fighting in the setting of the Cold War. They have a nice web page already set up. They also have the Kickstarter page here, but this is a historic war game. So I'm just going to cover it briefly because, again, not my thing, but that's okay. So why are you getting this game? You're getting military, economics, politics, and trade all in a smaller package. You have Chit Pull. Again, Chit Pull, you have sort of the Blitzkrieg sort of game, which is a relatively great 2-player game. And then you're having asymmetric sides, a sandbox, so you're not getting honed into you have to do this, you have to do that. I mean, historically accurate is what they're going for, and you can fight. The events aren't yours, but they just sometimes happen. So, and if you're looking for a solo game, solo as well. Again, very interesting cover. I like that with the eagle and the bear. You can see the examples of what the cards look like right here on the page as well. And there you go. War game. June 14, 1 to 2 player. Historically accurate. Get to fight. As your favorite side. Pick your team and go. Check it out when it launches. Speaking of war games, you might as well stay right there. Launching on June 16 is Coalitions. This is a 1 to 6 player game taking place either during the Revolutionary or the Napoleonic War setting. You are competing against each other as one of the major European powers during those times. France, England, Austria, Prussia, Russia, or Turkey are all of the asymmetric powers that you can be, and you're trying to decide who am I going to ally with, what direction do I want to take things, how am I going to influence what is happening on the continent during this game. This definitely has a war game vibe. You can see the various colors illustrated there. Looks like there's going to be some sort of miniature component as well. Now, how does this compare to things out there like Risk, Diplomacy, anything across the board with this? I have no idea. Like I said before, well outside my realm, but it's worth mentioning because I know a lot of you guys like this style of things as well. Now, again, just by glancing at the board, though, you can tell that there is a lot of stuff potentially going on. So, what is it going to look like? What's the price point going to be? How is it going to fare? Check it out when it launches on the 16th. Last up this week, launching on the 19th, is Battlefish. Now, I saw this on, I think it was Facebook being advertised. So, there's no images, though, on Board Game Geek, so I can't really give you what it's going to look like. But, as you can see, this is a 2 to 6 player game. This is, capture the flag on the seas. They do, however, have a nice website that you can see a little bit of what the art's going to look like, and you can even link to the campaign page. So it is Battlefish Epic Control. Build your army of fish-controlled battle robots. Again, sentences I never thought would be coming out of my mouth. And protecting your base at all costs. This is a, as I say, family-friendly strategy game, capture the flag, but it's a card game. So take that for what you will. Now, the interesting thing is I was able to find, when I was Googling things, a playtest version. So they did $150 to bring this playtest to fruition in the past. And this was launched back in June 2020. So about a year ago. And so you can get a little bit of a sense of what this game is actually going to entail just by checking out this previous page. So you can see everything that's there. You can see all of the interesting parts that are out there and a little bit of the basic setup that they're going to be doing. So there you go. Now, this was only like a $1 link to the playtest game, so it doesn't give you a lot of information. But if you want to see a little bit more, you can easily check that out as well. Okay, that's it. That is what's upcoming next week. Again, I think we're sort of in the lull of June. I think the end of June is going to be massive. The Rainbow Six game, Six Siege, whatever it's called, from Mythic. It's been making the rounds on social media. Quackalope and Board Game Co. have already posted a bunch of stuff. I'm sure a bunch of other people are going to be having, stuff pop up. Dice Tower's probably going to have a playthrough at some point, that sort of thing. I thought the Skyrim game was still coming out this month, so we'll see where that is. Yeah, just a ton of stuff still sort of lurking, I feel like. I feel like there's going to be a couple other big surprises before the end of the month. I believe that Wild Ascent is also launching at the end of the month. There's stuff that's going to be hitting. The Valor and Villainy game, the expansion is going to be in the following week as well, next week's video of this one. So again, there's lots of stuff that is going to be pushing your wallet, testing it, and testing its boundaries. So as always, thanks for watching, thanks for clicking, thanks for checking in. I appreciate it. As always, let me know what you're interested in. Let me know, what you're playing. Let me know anything you want. Let me know what you want to see. So, I don't know. Have a great weekend. I got stuff coming. You got stuff going. Stay classy. Have a great time. See you around.